Hello, lovelies. I hope everyone is well and enjoying their weekend. Happy new moon in Virgo. We're going to talk about that. And no, I didn't call it. Yes, I did not call it eclipse on purpose. I'm going to touch on that a little bit. First, we're going to go into the astrology for the week. This is not what Lori does. Hey, Betty. It's not what Lori does. Honestly, 3 people in the world can probably do what Lori does. And I don't know that those other 2 people are doing it publicly. Always listen to Lori and tune into the Awake Space for the collective astrology and also what that can mean for you and everything else that she has to offer. What I do when I'm going through the week for astrology is how that might play out just in your personal lives, and the energy that you can harness. Like, what can you do about, we can't do anything, that the planets are going to planet, but know before you go is kind of my theory on the best way to use astrology. So if we are understanding about what we may encounter this week, then we know how to like ride the wave rather than feel victimized by the wave. We can stand on the shore and kind of go like, oh, that's a big wave, or that's a wave in general. But knowing how to navigate it. And also, sometimes on the collective it's a big scary wave. Sometimes in the collective it looks like a big scary wave, but for us on a personal basis it may not be. On September 10th, that was a very eventful day out in the collective. Personally, for me, that was a good day. Don't feel bad if you're having a good day when the rest of the world is having a bad day. Take all the good days that we can get. So when I looked into the astrology of the week, and I named it Rolling in the Deep, as we start this week with this Virgo new moon. It is opposite both Saturn in retrograde and Neptune in retrograde. When Neptune is in retrograde, it pops the fog of delusion. I love Neptune when it's in retrograde. It's more truthful. It's less foggy. There is less delusion about things. When we have a Virgo new moon at that 29th degree, that mastery degree, we are talking about serving out of the details, editing out of the most amount of detail. And with it, on the other side of the seesaw, in an opposition with that Neptune in retrograde, we're looking at a new moon, new starts in the darkness of knowing, and knowing in the detail, knowing with the information that we need the most, with less fog around it. Now that is all wonderful. That's all good. Also, as human beings, sometimes we want to believe the best in a situation. We want to see something in its best potential rather than the reality of what it is. And especially when we have an outside world that, for our mental, emotional, and spiritual health, calls for escapism. It like requires that we do something and unplug for a minute and fill our souls and feed our mental, emotional wellness and self-care and all of that. We want to make sure that none of that, and I implore you, I encourage you to find an escapism hatch for your pleasure, whether that is a craft or spending time with kids, or getting your favorite snack and zoning out on your favorite movie series or TV series. Whatever you need to do to self-care, great. But also, if we want to create new starts that speak of stability, that speak of long term, whether that be an exploit in a new venture creatively, or a new relationship, or healing an old relationship, or a job venture, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, we really want to be working on the reality of the details, and the details that most serve us. And that is what this new moon can bring as we move into the week. And I will share that with you right now as we move into the week. So this is today, right? And we have our new moon opposite the Saturn and and Neptune, both in retrograde. Reforming boundaries is another thing. When we have Saturn in Pisces and in retrograde, it is allowing us to remold. It's mutable, right? It's allowing us to rethink, reshape the boundaries with this new set of details, with this sense of truth that probably will seem unavoidable this week. As we move into the week, let me show you all. As we move into the week, of course, we have tomorrow the moon, and later this evening, moon moving into Libra. It's going to conjunct the Mercury in Libra, and tomorrow, if we have moments this weekend where we're finding out information, we feel like we're dealing more in the truth and details, tomorrow we may want to take a diplomatic crack at it. And if we don't get, and especially with that trine, the moon will be in trine to Pluto, it'll be in trine to Uranus. If we feel like we put a lot of effort into speaking diplomatically, into taking a fair crack at any kind of situation, any kind of new project or anything where we really have our heart and our souls into tomorrow, and we don't feel like we're getting the truth back, we don't feel like it's being met with the respect and the effort that we put into it, that could end up being a little bit more interesting as the week goes on. As you know, Tuesday rolls in, now we have the sun starting to conjunct Mercury, and we have the moon starting to conjunct Mars, which we will fully experience on Wednesday. Also, Venus and Mars are starting to form a sextile again, a tighter sextile, which is going to make us really want to go for what we want. But with Mars moving into Scorpio on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, we will have a good portion of the day where we're going to have this moon and Mars conjunction. And when we have that, we're looking at the moon and Mars down here as I animate. As we have that, it's going to be very interesting to see what we can't avoid feeling, and what we can't avoid feeling like we want to take action on. As this moon Mars conjunction is also in this sextile, it is working with that Venus. This is a more serious. Sometimes we get moon Venus and it's dreamy, or sometimes we get Mars Venus and it's sexy. And not that it's not very sexy in Virgo and Scorpio, but this is going to be about that life. Okay, so when we are dealing in detail, when we are dealing in truth, when we are dealing with, okay, no one's going to stop me from getting this thing that I want, including like the inconvenient truth of maybe I don't have the support that I thought I did, or the inconvenient truth of maybe things aren't all set up the way, or maybe I can't rely on potential. You know, Wednesday, these things are really going to come up in all of us. And then as the next day rolls in, we're going to have the moon in a trine with Jupiter and the North Node moving us forward. The moon also later that day is going to be trining with Saturn and eventually Neptune, both again in retrograde. I don't know that we'll see a lot of action taken this day, but sitting with the feelings and understanding truly what you want and truly what's there to support you, what's not, what's in your way, and the truth that you have, like the reality of people. And it doesn't mean that there's an enemy. It doesn't mean that there's a bad guy, but the truth and the reality of the people that we're dealing with, and maybe where we would go, the running through the fire for other people, the way you might put effort into a surprise for somebody else, understanding that that is a you thing, and maybe not having the expectation set that that's going to come back to you in reciprocity. is going to be liberating for you, because it's going to allow you to be unencumbered by the disappointment that also gets put in with expectation. It's going to actually free some weight up to move forward, to go get what you want. And I kind of really love this for everyone this week. It could feel like a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. But by the end of the week, we have the moon moving into Sag. And when it first moves into Sag, of course, it's going to form that trine with that truth. And when we are learning, when we are growing, when we are having that teacher moon, right? That learning and teaching moon with Neptune in retrograde in Aries, learning and growing now, like after we've emotionally dealt, which is so important. We want to like understand what we're dealing with emotionally, process it, and then start to form our thoughts that will form the actions after we've processed. So while this week could get a little bumpy, not going to lie, emotionally, by the end of the week, we should, as long as we don't insist on the thing that we wanted to still be the thing that we wanted, as far as who we want somebody to be, what the situation we want it to be, of course, go after for what you want. But what I'm saying is as long as we don't still insist on all of the details in our situations in life being anything other than reality, the way that we can process and put action towards things starting at the end of this week is beautiful. It can really lead to something that will stand the test of time. I really kind of love this. We do have a square with the moon and Venus at some point on Saturday. And I think that every time we have a moon that's expansive and all-knowing in Sagittarius with that Venus in Virgo, it allows a little play, it allows a little joy into the details. This is going to ease any place that we've been hard on ourselves for what we weren't able to see before. Don't ever be hard on yourself for what you can't see. People learn to mask at a very early age. And if you feel like, how come I couldn't tell that person was not being fully authentically themselves? Because they've masked out of trauma response, because that was their survival, because they're very good at it. They're not necessarily an evil, bad person. People mask out of their own sense of survival. We all mask. We've all had masking tendencies. And when somebody has done that since childhood and they're not being purposely deceptive, it is just, that is how they know how to operate. That makes them feel the safest. And there doesn't have to be a bad guy, right? Really just take the focus back on what you can do with all of the truth and all of the situations in your life this week. We're in this new moon right now, and so it's moving from 29 degrees very quickly. So this week we're going to move from Sunday in the end of this Virgo moon. Tomorrow and some of Tuesday will be in the Libra moon, and then overnight we're going to move into that Scorpio moon on Wednesday, and we finish with a Sag moon. So we're going through, from Sunday to Sunday, we are moving through a lot of obligatory rapture question. I love that my milkshake brings all of the smart, interesting people to the yard. Top notch, top tier question. Yeah, so could we be faced with some harsh truths this week? Sure. But harsh is a descriptive, right? So it depends on where we're sitting in our life, where we're sitting with our relationship with reading into potential of things rather than sitting in the reality of things. And part of that happens a lot when we're people who will put the effort into changing ourselves, to always want to be like, if you're hearing my voice right now, you're probably somebody who's interested in growth, in always making yourself and your life better. And so we give that opportunity to others naturally, because we know it to be true for ourselves. We know the kind of change, we know the kind of arc we are capable of as human beings, because this crowd is interested in it. If you're hearing me later, if you're watching this video later, you're interested in growth, you're interested in change. So with the moon moving, there's something that's very there's such a ebb and flow, obviously, through all the moon signs in a week, but to go from that 29-degree mastery Virgo moon at that 29 degrees in a new moon in the nodal axis, and then move through Scorpio as Mars moves into Scorpio, and to have the Sun Mars the Sun Mercury and the Moon Mercury in Libra, where we're going to try to be diplomatic. Like, we've got all the details and now we want to serve, and now we're going to try to be diplomatic, and maybe that's not met with the response that we would give someone else that we really desired. And so now it is fuck shit o'clock. And what do we do with that? The truth, the feelings around it all will be slightly unavoidable this week, but in the best way to liberate you. It doesn't have to be harsh truth. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable truth. If we understand and reframe and know that any kind of truth benefits us. With the Scorpio moon conjunct Mars, it is time to look under the rock. And if we think, I don't want to look under the rock because that stuff makes me squeamish, then it will be harder for our brains, our hearts, and all of us every part of us to calibrate and recalibrate with the reality of the details of a person, of a relationship, of a work situation. So this week is also an excellent exercise in what do we do when something is uncomfortable? How do we handle that? And that is what I'm going to read cards for this week. Just a reminder that on Thursday night, we start the introduction to trauma-informed tarot. The workbook is getting made as we speak. I am not going to put tiny little updates up on the group page. Check your emails, because you should all, if you already signed up, you should have an invite. I will resend emails to people. Probably tomorrow night for the new people that have signed up. There's a group page. On that group page, you will find the correct Zoom link. If you joined early, the Zoom link you have is not correct. And the new time. It got posted in Mountain Time through the website, through an automation on the website. It is not starting at 9 o'clock at night. It is starting at 7:30 at night. And also everything will be recorded. If you miss or can't stay awake or whatever, the live class, the recording will be up, and then you can put questions in the group, which I will address at the beginning of each next class. I'm not going to update with the workbook and then with the Zoom, because then you guys get too many emails. We all know we do not like to get bombarded with emails. So it'll be one drop, one update. Probably we're looking at Tuesday for that as well. And I think that there is a coupon code on Lori's page, and I will put another one up later tomorrow to sign up, or later today if you are interested. We're going to be, I know because I wrote the curriculum, we're going to be going over lots of different things, but a lot of it is this class is really just for people pulling tarot for themselves who want to grow their gifts. To how to create language. Tarot is one of the easiest ways to start to create language with your guides. And that is the kind of stuff we're going to be going over. Also, what tarot should not be, the red flags you should be looking at when you're watching, or possibly, like, sometimes people are like, hey, $10, I'll pull a card for you online. And that's great and wonderful. And how you can use your discernment, what those red flags should be. When tarot gets a little toxic, we're going to be talking about that, but also like how to pull the cards, like how to connect so you're really connecting with guides. All of that is going to be covered in that intro. I'm going to pack a lot in this first class. So if you are interested but thought, I don't want to do tarot professionally, or the time doesn't work, this is not for that. Will be in the second 2 tiers. There will be 3 classes. There'll be 2 more follow-up classes. You don't have to want to use tarot professionally for this class. This class is for individuals just wanting to strengthen their relationship with their guides, create language, and also for your own sake to learn how to create discernment, because discernment's good right now anyway, but also so you know what tarot should be and what it shouldn't be. The toxic tarot readers that are out there, so you don't fall prey to them. And I'm just going to say this, anyone ever DMing you saying, hello, dear, hello, bright spirit, hello, sweet soul. I was called to pull up. No, just no. No one, no legitimate reader, unless you've established a friendship with them or you're a client already, is going to call and send you a weird link for you to pay them. Or we literally don't ever do that. No astrologer, no, because we know that so many people, the real ones, will not do that, because we all feel horrible when we get the messages that somebody pay. I had a client think that I was me and paid somebody a couple of $100 for a reading. So we feel terrible. So as a rule, we don't DM people like that, so that we can universally say we don't do that, so that you guys know, don't fall for that. Okay. Let's move into the card pulling. The way we're going to pull the cards this week is we are going to look at, with the details and the truth, and wanting to look deeper and then wanting to find joy by the end of the week. What we're going to look at, what is likely to happen with this astrology this week, is that somebody that maybe you already think, well, I'll just let that go. I won't go as deep in a friendship. I won't go as deep, whatever, pulls something, says something that now is unavoidable and has to be addressed. A lot of times we as humans would find it easier to back up into the bushes like Homer Simpson. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Everybody's seen that little gif, right? I use that terminology a lot, rather than, why have the conflict? Why put our energy into something we're already kind of being uninterested in, right? So we don't do that. But then sometimes it just calls for a moment where we step into our power, where we step into a boundary. And again, with Saturn having moved back into Pisces, into retrograde, we are reforming, remolding what those boundaries can look like for ourselves. So let's pull a card. Let's pull one card for what is the advice for how to deal with conflict compared to how we normally would. And then the other one is, it's really important by the end of this week that we find joy in the liberation of wherever we found that truth, wherever we found the detail, wherever we found the uncomfortable. So the one is, how are we going to deal with it, right? Let's process and action. And then the other thing is, we can reframe and look at that truth, that unavoidable truth, those unavoidable feelings, that unavoidable, okay, I'm going to have to go get what I want without this person or without this support. When we are in that moment, it's really important to see it as liberation, so we can find the joy and the celebration of it. So let's also look at something good that's coming, some kind of joy we can participate in. So those are the cards, because we here pull weekly for in the context of what's already happening with the astrology. That's why it's kind of Astro Tarot, where a lot of us are going to feel kind of over things this week. And we can look at it as liberation, or we can look at it as like, of course, this is happening for me. And whichever way you frame that is going to either support or work against how we move forward. All right, Leos. And sharing is like one of the best things that you can do. If you can share, liking is great, but sharing, even if you share it to yourself, you copy the link and you just text it to yourself, sharing really helps the channel. Okay, Leo, don't forget to watch the beginning with the astrology for the week. Woo, okay. What is the thing for Leo? How can they handle? Okay. What do they do with conflict? What's the advice? Okay, the advice is you may have made a decision a while ago, Leo, that you have to be gentle with yourself to remake that decision. Um, Not sleeping and stressing about it is not going to help. You may have made a decision, you may have felt really good about that decision, and now universe is going to come put a little obstacle in front of you. That obstacle may be finding out something that you didn't want to find out this week. But really rolling in the deep, like let it process. Feel all of your feelings. Don't try to think your feelings. Don't try to shop your feelings. Don't try to mask your feelings. Feel all of your feelings. Um, Whatever gets put in the way of the decision you made a while ago, that is there for your protection. You're eating nachos and popcorn. I'm a little bit jealous. This is probably this is probably protection. I find the hangman card to come in like your guides are like, "Ah, put the brakes on stuff because there's something that needs to get processed, felt like there's information you need before this moves any further." Make sure you're feeling all your feelings. This is not a judgment, Leo, on your ability to make decisions. Um this is not a notation on your ability to vet people. This is probably your guides jumping in, giving you protection to something, but make sure you feel all your feelings because there's juice in that. There is something really important for you to stumble upon while processing. Don't avoid the processing. The good thing that's coming this week. How about the Star card and the Two of Cups for Leo? Holy shit. Okay. I'm very pragmatic, so I don't do that whole like blow smoke up everybody's ass and like you get a secret admirer and you get a secret. This is reciprocity. Could it be love? Sure. Could this just be finding a bestie who like gives back? I don't care if it's an animal, a bestie, a work colleague, a romantic attachment, whatever, a coworker. When you find somebody who gives the way that you give, that will like put the effort, like those little things, that is like so soul satiating. This is Venus in Cancer. This is how you want to give and how you want to be loved is how you give, and somebody else that is the same way finds you and gives it back to you. This is a very, very healing thing, right? This could be your boss going all in and defending you the way that your family didn't when they should have, being protect. This could be a friend. This could be, but could this also be like a healing relationship coming in a romantic way for Leos and fifth house placements? Yeah. And we're going to talk about whether the love cards are all like always love cards or whether you know, how each card, just the way a planet can express different ways. We're going to talk about that in the class too. Okay, my astro loves, thank you so much. Um, the class, blah blah blah. I'll put the if you haven't signed up already. If you have signed up, look for an email if you signed up early so that you get into the right group, and I will approve those join requests as soon as I get off here. I'm going to put the discount up to on the community page. And thank you. Membership is here to join too. We have a lot of fun in membership, and we just started the signs. We have a learning series. We go over spiritual hygiene, a whole bunch of other stuff. And thank you to my members for being so patient while I am in deep recovery from my health flare up. I appreciate you all. I love you. Now you love you. And I will see you all soon. Bye.